Hey there YouTube, it's Michael from Zenotech Tutorials again. This week's going to be a fairly short video. I'm just going to be showing you how to create the Office 365 tenant and an overview of what it looks like on the inside. I'm not going to go too in-depth as to the different services and the different features in the portal, as those will be covered in later videos. So once again, this is all 365 for business. This isn't home, Best Buy use or from Walmart or something like that. So when you log into 365, if you go to portal.office.com, this is the screen that you come up to. Unlike other online services, there's no create an account option here. It's just a login. If you need to create a 365 business account, you need to know what plan you want to use first. I'm going to go over here and show you the trial for the E3. The E3 is a trial I'd recommend doing just because it's got the most amount of services on it for trial purposes, unless you want to do E5 and you want to test out the PSTN conferencing. Trials are 30 days long. As such, if you are watching this series on an actual how-to, I would suggest maybe creating it in a couple weeks because I'm only releasing these videos on Sundays. That being said, you come up to basically any plan that has a trial license set up for it. You have the buy now link here, and then you have the free trial down here. So when you go to the free trial, you're brought up to this screen here. Usage location is pretty self-explanatory in that you cannot change it because of the available services. It differs by region. First name, last name, self-explanatory. Business email address and business phone number are basically for what's called self-service password reset in case you get locked out of your account down the road. You can use those as verification options. And also, it will ask for your phone number here. The phone number needs to be something that you can either get a phone call on or a text message as you're creating the account, because it's going to want to call you or text you with the regular Microsoft verification code that you type in to verify you're human, basically. Company name, self-explanatory. Organization size, self-explanatory. And so when we go to create an ID, when you create, and unfortunately I can't actually get it to you to show here because I already have an Office 365 tenant that I'm going to be using for the demos for the sake of this video series. And I don't want to start creating 365 tenants and basically taking names away from other people that may want to create them. I say that because on the next screen, when you create the tenant, you create the domain. It's a format of domain.onmicrosoft.com. For instance, one of my domains that I have just for testing purposes is michaelazure.com, A-Z-U-R-E, the regular Microsoft Azure service. So my 365 account that I'll be using for demo purposes is michaelazure.onmicrosoft.com. That's the domain that I started with. My user account is just administrator at. That can be changed down the road. That will be covered probably in next week's video. However, when you go ahead and you create the tenant, it'll tell you right away if that tenant name is in use because you can't reuse a tenant, obviously. Once somebody registers it, they register it. It doesn't go away. It doesn't delete itself, which is why I'm not creating more tenants right now. But the next screen is pretty self-explanatory. You create the username, which, like I said, mine is administrator at, followed by the domain, which is mine is michaelazure.onmicrosoft.com. You do that. You create the password. You don't need to enter any sort of billing information when you're doing the trial. Like I said, the trial is 30 days long. After the 30 days, you're given a grace period of 30 days, I believe it is. And then after that grace period, then start to go into disabled. But I'll cover billing next week too, probably. But either way, you create the tenant. You don't need to do any billing information. You could go and buy licenses after if you want to, but you don't need to. At least not right away. The step 3 you're in is basically just provisioning and you just waiting a few minutes for it to actually set your account up. Once it's set up, it may log you in or it may throw you to this page here. I can't remember exactly which one it does. It's been a while since I've made the tenant. But once you're here, you're logging in with your 365 for Business account. So if you typo the domain here, or if for whatever reason you put in a domain that's not registered to 365 tenant, it'll tell you right here that it doesn't recognize the domain. That's something fairly new, which is actually really good because you know if you typo the domain. Now, it won't tell you if you typo the username for obvious security purposes. It's not going to tell you if the username is right or wrong until you actually try to log in. So I'm going to be showing you guys, let's see which portal it throws me to here, because there is a, okay, so it threw me to the preview portal. There's the old portal, which if you're creating a tenant now, I don't even know if you're going to see the old portal at all, so I'm going to demo everything on the new portal. So, all right, this DirSync status block here, this is something I have running separate, which I'll probably cover, and it's not even next week. That's going to be a couple weeks down the road, as far as what that is and how that works. But basically, what directory synchronization is basically synchronizing your on-premise Active Directory with 365, and I have a test lab set up in Azure that I'm synchronizing with this. But either way, you can just add regular cloud users, delete users, edit users, reset user passwords. This is the billing information that I was talking about. I have an expired Intune license on here, and then I have one E3 which I'm actually paying for, just for the one license because my trial ran out and I needed to do this demo, and just for future use anyway. View my bill, I'm not going to show you that because that's got some personal information on it. You have the Office software, which I explained last week, how you have the 5 downloads of the Office Pro Plus. You can do different download settings. You just go and directly install the software. Once again, I'll cover Office Pro Plus in a separate video. This is the message center as far as updates that Microsoft does. Any little notifications that they want to tell you. Service Health Dashboard is basically any issues, whether it's planned and scheduled maintenance, or if it's just something that went wrong. This is a good place to check. You know, if you're having an issue before you call Microsoft and open up a service request, take a look at the Service Health Dashboard, see if there's something there, because it'll also tell you if they're working on it. And, you know, really, if they're working on it, opening up more tickets isn't going to speed up the process. So that's just not really. These active user reports kind of show you your users, what they're using most. I only have my administrator account and one user on here from the synchronized Active Directory that I mentioned earlier. As far as user management, Admin Center Preview, this is sort of a video on the Admin Center Preview, which I guess is the same thing I'm doing, but this is directly from Microsoft. Billing and subscription information. And then resource mailboxes, these tasks down here, more settings, and just more options down there. This is your notification center up here. It's saying that I have new apps and security and compliance center with Yammer. Don't need that. And this, you may see on the left over here, this navigation pane, you may see it collapse to the left like this. Just click on this right arrow to bring it out. The home link will bring you right back here. The users link, you have active users, which is the 3 users. This is a user account that's created with the directory synchronization. You go to contacts, and these are like external contacts that you can add, just for the sake of having them in one place, basically. Deleted users and data migration. This is if you're migrating information from Exchange, mostly from a different Exchange, or if you're doing an IMAP migration, but that's not this video. Groups, you can either do regular distribution groups, security groups, shared mailboxes. That's mostly Exchange things, but they let you manage some of it in the portal too. Resources, room and equipment mailboxes, that's also Exchange. Sites, that's SharePoint. Public website, that SharePoint, I'm going to take a look at that in a little while. Not entirely sure why that's there, actually, because back in 2013, Microsoft took away the public websites, and they only do the internal sites on SharePoint now. And mobile management is actually Intune. Billing information, subscriptions, bills, licenses. You could purchase more services and billing notifications. I'll show you the licenses that I have in a second that I mentioned. We go into settings, service add-in, security and privacy, DirSync errors, um, domains, which is going to be next week's video. That's going to go over how to add and remove a domain, as well as how to change the user accounts to use a new domain that you've added. Organization profile is basically it's got information for the company name, company address, the technical contact for the company, and just basic company information like that. And then partner relationships, that's if you have an external partner that you are paying for different Microsoft services, and you actually add them to your tenant, so you can give them access and you can also revoke their access. If we go into reports here, this once again is more so of that usage report that I mentioned before. We go into health, service health dashboard, message center, what's new, directory sync status, kind of already went over that. And then the admin centers, and the content of this will vary based off of what licenses you have applied to you. The E3 has the Exchange, the Skype, the SharePoint, Yammer, security and compliance. It has a little bit of Azure Active Directory, and mine is showing Intune in there because I have Intune licenses. They're expired, but they're still there for another 30 days, so it's still giving me access to the Intune Admin Center. I might buy that one, might not, haven't decided. Either way, so that's this left-hand pane here. You see your company name up here. Like I said, mine is just Michael Azure. Basic Microsoft feedback link down here. And then this need help is actually if you wanted to open up a case with Microsoft. They have a bit of a new way of doing this. You open up a case through here. It's a fairly quick callback time. Can't remember exactly what it is. I believe it's meant to be something around like 10 minutes. But it's something that, you need to be ready to work on the issue right away, basically. Then call back any time between in a second and 10 minutes. And the last thing I'm going to show you is basically the boxes up here, which is what's called the app launcher. Now, this doesn't have everything on it. I actually do have a separate Office 365 tenant that I use for somewhat business-related uses that I'll be briefly showing that during some videos. But this is the security and compliance center that we saw in the notifications. Yammer, which is more of a social network, but just for your organization. Sort of like an inter-organizational Facebook, if you want to call it that. The store for add-ons, these were the apps I mentioned before, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote. This is Sway, the admin center, which will bring me right back to this admin panel here. Office 365 video, Delve, tasks, sites, that's SharePoint. Most of this stuff, the Sway, the video, Delve, tasks, sites, OneDrive, Newsfeed, and the Office Online apps all tie into the SharePoint licenses. People, Calendar, and Mail obviously tie into Exchange. But that's really about it. That's the gist of the new Admin Center. Next week, I might briefly touch on the old Admin Center if I can figure out how to get back to it. I might briefly touch on that, or I might just use my other tenant for that. But that's really about it for now, and on the other tenants too, I have a few other things up here that I can show you. But that's about it for this video. I'm going to be showing you guys a lot more. Next week, I'm going to go over user management, just cloud-based user management, nothing as far as being tied to an on-premise server. But I'm going to show you cloud-based user management, adding and removing domains, how to change the domain that you log in with, for instance, that michaelazure.onmicrosoft.com, how to change that to, if I want to log in with administrator@michaelazure.com. I'll show you how to change those, how to add and remove domains. I'll show you how the DNS records work for adding and removing domains if you want to start moving services like the MX records for mail flow. the SRV records for Link, the CNAME records that apply to a bunch of services. Some apply to Exchange, some apply to Skype, some apply to Intune, mobile device management, things like that. But I'm not going to go too much into that right now. That will be next week's video. Thank you guys for watching, and see you next week.